White Americans, this is for you, but everyone else, please remain. Join the conversation. What made you, white America, think that diversity does not include you? Now, I know there's a socialization of conversation that prioritizes the experiences of trauma of certain communities versus that of you. However, shall we forget that the reason why the Food Stamp Act was passed is because Lyndon Johnson, our former president, literally visited rural Appalachia and was horrified by how they were living in extreme poverty. Not because they themselves deserved it, not because they themselves were born into a categorization that made them more prone to being poor. Did you know that in rural Appalachia, they used to have mining companies? These mining companies had mining towns paid in scrip. That's fake money. So they paid their workers in fake money in the 1900s. You know why? To maximize the profits of the shareholders of the companies. And that came at the cost of the employees. The employees lived and paid in company money, their housing and the local market that was also owned by the company. But once these companies left, they didn't see it as valuable to be in that part of Appalachia anymore, what happened? They were left with no generational wealth. They were left with no real money. And I think this is a realm where affirmative action could have been much more expansive to include Americans who have a historical experience of marginalization. Till this day, Appalachia has a stigma of consequences that came from that corporate exploitation of the region, of that corporate exploitation of the workforce. What they experience is the consequences of transgenerational poverty invoked by corporations who used and abused them and left. So in that reality, the today's generations of that area of rural Appalachia that is very much suffering from that history through unemployment, through a lack of jobs, through, substance abuse. I would position that being within that community, it has the transgenerational obstacles that would allow for such a person coming from Appalachia to count under affirmative action, I would say. The accent itself is very much dehumanized. There's a stereotype with it that isn't nice. And coming from South Central Los Angeles, where I went into university with that accent, and it was made fun of, it was basically bullied out of me. I mean, it made me be ashamed of how I was speaking. Even my professors would make it seem as they thought I would be dumber than I actually was. And I'd even speak. So it was my writing where they just assumed that I would be dumber than I was. Really. My English professor told me to basically dumb it down because he could see that I was trying too hard. And that's ridiculous because I spent, 16 years selectively mute. So writing was a form that I mastered. So when I went in there, I was speaking at a certain level and I was writing at a certain level, right? So in that reality, I can see that the experience of someone who comes from such a impoverished background can face the same similarities to what I experienced coming from an impoverished region, but also one where the accent is seen as less than. Within that reality, white people are also included in diversity. They're also included in economic equity. They are included in Medi-Cal. They are included in Medicare. They are included in SNAP benefits. They were the reason why food stamps were created. So what I need you to get from this video is that diversity also includes you. Yes, even if you're a white male, because if you're a white male from rural Appalachia, then it should include you. And I think this is something that we can build in this transparency through knowledge of what America actually is and not that it has been stuffed into us because when you look at the textualism of what we have and then what the politicians have been telling us America is, you don't really see that align very well. I tell you, my next video will talk about how America was founded on liberty, and your reasoning may be, I don't want liberty, I want freedom. However, you go to the Constitution. Where do you find freedom? Do you find freedom as a guarantee under the United States Constitution? You will only find it once, and that is the freedom of speech. It is actually liberty. So think about that, how we've been socialized to believe that the most important thing in the United States of America is freedom, but it's liberty. Because I don't have the freedom to go into a store and say, I don't like chocolates, so remove every single chocolate because I don't like it. You're offending my freedom. You have the liberty to go and buy what you want. I have the liberty to not buy chocolate. That's the difference between freedom and liberty. We are founded on liberty, not on freedom. And that's fine. I'm not canceling freedom. But it's that we have to actually clarify what are our values. And our value and diversity doesn't exclude white people. And you have to internalize that, or else we're not going to get any better.